Great, so hello everybody, and tonight we're looking at the linking vessels, the yin and the yang, in connection with a bit with the menopause, but also in the menopause, we're wanting to look at how there's the yin and the yang linking, so there's this drawing in and opening up, but how they also, it's not just about the arms, but how they support the back, and how you might even actually use them for back issues as well as, of course, shoulders. We often think of the linking as shoulders, but how the yang linking works with the back. But if we're kind of tight and maybe overprotected, we might be having a lot of, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but a lot of tightness in the back and a collapsing in the front of the yin. So that sometimes we think that if someone has back problems, rather than we could work the yang aspect of the girdle vessel, the yang, the governing vessel, but we have to not isolate it from the yin, the conception vessel and the yin linking, and then the yin linking is quite connected with the penetrating vessel. And so we're actually almost working with all of the vessels today, not so much with the stepping vessels, but I was also asked to include the mudras, and next time, hopefully I'll remember to do this, we'll do all the mudras for each of the vessels. But today, the mudra for all 8, so I have one for all 8, is putting your thumbs together and your index fingers, because that makes an 8. Thumb, let me come a bit closer. Thumb and index fingers, so that you've got an 8, and then your middle, your ring, and your little finger, touch them. So basically you've got 4 points of contact. So you've got 2 separate hands. Hang on, I'm trying to do it like this. No, that doesn't show. It's this one. Like, sorry, it's a mirror image, so I'm getting confused. Right, like that. And then you've got your 4 fingers. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 points of contact. And then if you link them together, that makes 8. So the fingers and then thumb and index. And then if you put them, maybe to start with, we can put them, the thumb and the index finger 8 on the pubic bone. I like the way this makes a nice image. And it is a bit like the womb, showing the womb, pointing down, because all of these vessels are connecting with not just our womb, but with all of our reproductive organs. And we could say that this is the center, our palaces. And when we're thinking about the menopause, which is one of the things we were thinking about, changes and cycles, it's how does the passage of cycles, how does the passage of time reflect itself in the changing nature of our palaces? And in fact, how are the palaces held up? Because another of the questions was about prolapse. So you can see this in the fingers. If there's not enough support from underneath, from the pelvic floor, but also from the girdle vessel and from the yin and the yang as well, so we're thinking about internally too, then this can all start to kind of collapse. And then you get things like prolapse of the womb or the anus or just of the vaginal wall. So actually, just to hold them here, maybe with the little finger also touching the pubic bone. And maybe that's a good way to start, because in fact, in the menopause, often there is a bit of a collapse in the posture as well as in the womb and the palaces. So maybe to just feel how, if the womb is quite saggy, so I'm kind of exaggerating the posture, and is tired, maybe tired from so many menstrual cycles and opening up, or maybe tired from birth, or maybe the birth was actually quite stressful, that kind of put quite a lot of pressure on this holding quality of the palaces, so that it's weak. And so what we can do with our hand gesture is just imagine that there's more of a holding quality. And then with the out breath, to actually feel the bottom of the phalluses, the fingers can be like the pelvic floor. And so as we breathe out, we gather up the pelvic floor. And as we breathe in, we relax, but especially if we have a prolapse, we don't want to let go too much. We want to keep some gathering. That's why holding the fingers together can be quite good, to just have this kind of gathering and feel it's being gathered and connecting to the earth. And you could even maybe keep still the fingers, but just move them up now. Move them up. The conception, which includes, so the fingers that are touching, middle, ring and little, are moving up the conception vessel. Sometimes it is good to move up. Often I move down, but if there's prolapse or just a weakness in the pelvic floor, sometimes it's good to very slowly bring it up and bring it up to the heart and feel a holding of the heart. Maybe breathe with the heart and feel how the pelvic floor can support the heart. And then bringing it up to the throat, because the throat, so you probably need to, rather than have your fingers facing out, facing down, maybe turning them to face out, even with the heart, sometimes turning to face out. But certainly as we come to our throat, the feeling that the throat is such a big place where all of the vessels connect. And we're using our hands in the mudras. So this is good for the linking vessels. Maybe you could even feel just moving your hands up and down, like a little opening of the heart, which is this is the chong. We didn't talk about the chong at the beginning, but the inner wings of the heart are the chong. But then you could open up from the throat and actually take your hands apart, still holding the mudra, but dividing and feeling the left and the right, and taking it right into your wings and opening up. So with the wings, this is how we open our heart to the wider world. And we need to sense this is what we want to do. And especially sometimes as we get older, rather than having the open-hearted quality of the child, we may have been hurt. So this is how the linking vessels retain memories. They are about the cycles of 7 years for women and 8 years for men, and how we're receiving from the outer world. And this is important in the menopause or the perimenopause leading to the menopause, because then our body needs to adjust how it's been, moving from the 28-ish day cycle and how that's being influenced by the outer world to shifting. And that's a big transition that takes at least a cycle of 7 years, that maybe in its early stages is 42, 6 cycles of 7. But 6 cycles of 7 is a long time that we've lived, but of course the first 2 cycles we're not having the menstrual cycle with babies and children. But sometime towards the end of the 2nd cycle, so that's nearly 5 cycles, 35 years of the menstrual cycle, and then maybe another 7 years leading up to the menopause. That's a long time. Many cycles when how we receive and how we relate to the outer world influences our wings, and then how we bring that into our body. And so, are we becoming quite rigid as time goes on? And are we starting to get shoulder pain because we're holding too much? And if we can fill up the front, then maybe that releases the back. So maybe just feel that movement. If we block the front and we collapse the front and really exaggerate it and round the back and really hunch over, and do it with the mudras as well. And feel how that is in the back, and there's a weakness, a collapsing in the front, a rounding of the head, a rounding of the back. But how if you really feel the wings that attach to your spine, like a bird also has a spine, and then opening up and feeling that there's space creating in the front, or there's energy being built in the heart, which enables us to open out our arms, and then we can feel that freeing of the upper back. Maybe we could even lean back and feel how much we can open up our heart into space, and how in that leaning back we can release some tension from the upper back, from our shoulders, but even from our heart and our throat and our brain. But how if we gather in a more soft way, and maybe really draw down and really release the back by bringing our head down to the earth, and maybe even dropping the mudra down to the earth. We can release in the upper back without collapsing in the chest. And then as we come up from the earth, bringing the mudra back through the womb, but as we uncurl, maybe feeling it in the abdomen. So before you fully uncurl, open up the abdomen, feel some strength rather than being curled forward and collapsing in the abdomen. Do what we did for the upper back, and opening in the abdomen. And you probably feel as you open in the abdomen, because the yin way follows the spleen points. It's opening up the spleen by strengthening the spleen, by strengthening the earth, by giving earth to the abdominal muscles. And then we can come up to the heart with the mudra. We can open up the heart and gather in the heart. We can come to our throat. This is a big thing actually in the menopause as well, that often in the perimenopause, women start to say, oh, I can really start to express how I really feel. And I don't necessarily need to please other people. Because actually one of the shifts in the menopause is that when we stop bleeding and we stop ovulating, it's about using that energy of the different phases of the menstrual cycle, or all the jing and the blood that was used to mature the egg, that we are the egg, or that we are the potential baby, and we need this energy for ourselves. And as we build up this energy in ourselves, as the blood isn't coming out, so if maybe feeling that difference, blood coming out, and then now the blood is staying in and can nourish our hearts and can nourish our throat. And then we feel strong in our yin way, and our chong penetrating vessel is the breasts, the inner wings of the heart, and yin and yang way at the outer wings. We can start to open our heart and fill with blood and fill our throat, and then we can start to speak what we really want to say and express what we want to express without trying to please other people so much, without having to look after children so much. We're thinking about ourselves a bit more, and how we want to express ourselves into the world. So of course, if this natural movement of blood rising gets blocked and we don't speak our truth, then it keeps rising, and then we get hot flushes and we get heat in the face, and we start to feel a bit ungrounded. But yet if we can really be grounded in our feet, thinking of the regulating point of the chong, spleen 4, and the regulating point of the girdle vessel, gallbladder 41, and this gathering of the yin linking in the abdomen, and the gathering of the chong in the abdomen, and the gathering in the heart, then we can feel the energy rising, but it's anchored in the center and it's anchored on the earth. And then we can start to really open up and express who we are. But if any of those aren't supported, if the chong isn't anchored, if the yin wei isn't anchored at the abdomen along the spleen points, if our heart is collapsing, then we can't express because there isn't much energy there and it just rises up and disperses. And that's when we feel unanchored and lost and hot flushes and can't sleep, because it's like we don't know what to do with this energy and we're lost and we can't find ourselves. So the menopause and the perimenopause is giving us an opportunity to find this expression of our throat and our voice, the connection between our heart and our brain. Partly it's that we can open up. And then our brain is stable. We can put our mudra between our eyes, perhaps, and maybe we face it up to heaven. And we feel how it connects with the mudras we had on our womb and our heart and our throat. And we can stay balanced. And it can lift us up if we have prolapse. Of course, if our prolapse is really strong, maybe even standing for too long, or if we are very weak and we have to take time to gather these energies, we can sit on a ball to get a bit of support for our perineum. And then this support from underneath can support our womb. And then our womb can support our heart. And our heart can support our throat. And we can take time to build up our energies in connection with the earth. And then we can feel our brain connected to space. And so you can do this standing or sitting on the ball. So if someone quite weak in the girdle vessel, prolapse is a weakness of all core four, because all core four, do, ren, chom and dai, governing, conception, penetrating and girdle, all pass directly through the perineum. So it's a weakness of potentially of all of those and the balance between them. But if we can support that through sitting on a ball or by strengthening this midline, then our head, our brain can open into space, and our wings, the inner and the outer wings, because in this position, we're opening heart one, which I've added as a point for the chong, but we feel this opening through our arm, which is a lot more the yin way, and into our hands, and we open into space. So our opening could just be this opening of our wings. And holding the mudra here is quite powerful, because you maybe feel this figure of eight movement in your brain and the connection between the left and the right sides of your body, but as well as the center. That's what I like about this. You feel that really spiraling movement, but you're not losing connection with the center. And so it's possible to stay here for longer. But then maybe you want to open the wings out again and feel the bigger connection into the space. Moving down, maybe one side and then the other, or maybe both at the same time. And just feel how it is to be opened into space from a power at the front. So, like I say, you can do this standing or sitting, depending on what feels good for you. And maybe just really relaxing and feeling how this position opens up the back. See if you can feel almost like your arms are being held up like a little puppet on strings, and someone's actually holding you. The space is holding you, so your shoulders can relax And you can really start to feel the movement of your wings, which can open and even leaning back, but which can also gather in, and you can relax your spine. So feeling how they support this exchange between the yin and the yang. The yin perhaps supporting the yang. In our culture, often even for women, the yang is much stronger because we forget to support the yin. And so as you do this movement with your arms, the linking are about memories that we hold in our body. I hope you can still hear me because my video seems to have blocked. I hope that it still seems to have a connection. I don't understand why it's blocked, so I will carry on talking. It's still showing an internet connection, but I don't know. Ah, I know why it's blocked. It's because my battery has run out on my camera. So just explore this opening. And yes, the adaptation to the outer world. Let me think of the fluidity, of the memory in the body, of adapting, of flying, of cycles in life. And so use this pause moment where hopefully you can still hear me, even if you can't see me. You hear, and maybe it is good to have that pause, that you can connect with the memories in your body and go inside yourself. So just take a moment to really tune in to memories, to access linking, to access the wisdom contained in your body, in the wisdom of your memories, and to release that which no longer serves you, but to retain that which continues to support you. And so after this pause of going inwards, you can bring the mudra now to your back, to Ming Men. So just same mudra, but place it on your back. I'll turn around. The level of your second and third lumbar vertebrae. And this is about connecting with your origins, with your past. And so you can just feel the movement behind you, connecting you to your past, but also to your ancestors. But also you could feel how that connects you to the earth, to the present moment. And this area, especially as we get older, can often be quite weak. We've talked about tightness in the back, and there can often be tightness in the sacrum, especially if we sit not on a ball, but on a chair. But in Ming Men, it's often a bit weak. So it's quite good to just feel a bit of power in Ming Men as we place this connection here. And breathe. And then feel maybe the wings at the back of our body and opening our arms into space behind us, opening the linking to receive from our own past, from all the experiences we've had, but to feel if there is anything that we want to release. So this may be more the girdle vessel, in fact, this link between the present and the past. So if you do have prolapse or weakness in the pelvic floor and you want to sit, then you can just release by sitting, either releasing from the front, from the womb, or from the back, because the linking vessels do connect with the girdle vessel. So if we start to release from the girdle vessel, we should feel also a release in our shoulders. So feel that connection between your shoulders and your hips. So if you have a prolapse, then you might want to just be sitting on a ball or sitting on the floor and moving your hips. And that can feel enough. But of course, as you're moving your hips and releasing anything that you no longer need, even if you have a prolapse and you need to support physically, then energetically, perhaps there's something that you need to release. So actually the linking and the girdle are quite interconnected in releasing what you no longer need. The girdle, releasing what you no longer need from your womb and from your kidneys. So from your womb, it could be any kind of trauma you've had in your womb. It could be issues with your menstrual cycle that built up over time. It could be sadness. It could be memories of relationships, sexual connections that didn't feel nourishing, that maybe that's something you need to release. Or maybe memories of traumatic births or anything that you feel in the girdle vessel you need to release, but you can release it in a very gentle way without so much of a physical movement, more energetic. But maybe some of you might want to release much more strongly if you don't have a prolapse and you want to release them physically. In the menopause, this is an important aspect of the menopause. Our girdle vessel isn't opening like it did each month to release the blood. And so after the menopause, we need to find ways that we can keep the girdle vessel circulating and releasing. So maybe moving your hands, feeling the space, connecting with this energy of releasing down in quite a physical way, if you don't have a prolapse, even squatting down and giving your energy to the earth like we would do during the menstrual cycle, but we no longer have this cycle to support us. We have to find our own way of releasing what we need to release when we need to release it. So I think often releasing down to the earth. So girdle is quite connected with the way. It's actually with the way we can support the girdle, and the girdle supports the way, the linking to release. So do the two together, releasing down to the earth, releasing into the sky through the way. Because the girdle regulates what's below and what's above, the legs and the arms. And the legs and the arms also influence the girdle. So releasing whatever you might need to release, but of course only releasing what you need to, with both the girdle vessel and the linking. I can act because there are memories and wisdom in our memories that we want to keep in our body. And then there's memories that we want to release. And this is one way of releasing from the girdle and from the arms, releasing more down to the earth. But we can also release more into the space around the girdle vessel. And then this is really about the arms and the linking and feeling what we want to release that no longer serves us, either from the pelvis or from the shoulders. And this is when the perimenopause offers us that opportunity as we're changing the cycle, we're stopping the menstrual cycle with its phases of releasing the blood, maturing the egg, so nourishing and nurturing, and then releasing again. And we need to access those different phases in our time frame. We're not reliant on this 28, 30 to 35 day or whatever cycle we have. We can choose the moment. Because as we age, we maybe have more that we need to release, more that we've accumulated, but now we're free. We don't have to wait for the release of menstruation. So now we could do even a stronger release, really swinging the arms, feeling the linking vessels moving, feeling the relationship between the back and the front, the yin and the yang, feeling a release in the sacrum, a release in the middle and upper back, also a release in the neck as we pivot around. We can release what we no longer need from the memories of our body. But then we want to spiral back for a moment to the centre, because we want to connect with Du and Ren and Chong, this vertical axis, yin and yang, of keeping the wisdom, the memory that do serve us. So really connecting with this vertical line, spiraling around the centre, feeling all the resources that we have been able to access in our lifetime, gathering into the centre. Especially in this, we're focusing on the yin, and so that can really support any release in the yang. And then we can do the movement the other way of releasing. It can be quite slow, it can be quite gentle, or it can be much more vigorous, depending on how you are today. So this is the thing, after the menopause, we can start to decide our own energy each day when we need to release. We don't have to wait for the release of menstruation. But then we also need to recenter. So like when we are menstruating before the menopause, there are times to release, but there are also times to gather back to the centre. Maybe first to gather into the yin before gathering to the yang. That we might want to have a hand on the front of our heart to connect with the yin, and on our lower back, being then to connect with the yang. We might bring our energy back into the yin way, which connects with the conception vessel. Conception vessel 22 in the hollow on the neck, in between the clavicle, 23 just on the thyroid, on the thyroid, and 22, the lower one, the celestial pathway. Are we aligned with our purpose, our celestial pathway? Why are we here? And the one above is the fountain of incorruption. No, I can only think of it in French, so I don't think that's a very good translation. Immortality, I think, is a translation in English. The immortal fountain, that we are connected with timelessness and the infinite. And that is contained within the yin way, which opens into space and infinity. And our throat, and speaking our truth, can connect with the back of our neck. Sometimes our neck is stiff because we're not expressing what we need to express. That can be an opportunity of the menopause to really finally speak our truth. And then we can connect with the points of governing vessel under the occiput, governing vessel 15 and 16 just above. And maybe as we hold the yin and hold the yang, we can allow our neck to come into alignment between the front and the back, the yin and the yang. And so we come back to our brain and the mudra and our throat and our heart, maybe feeling which way you preferred, going up or going down, and then coming to our womb. And then you might just want to stand, close your eyes and absorb all of this. You may want to curl down and just hang a little bit. Letting your back not have to hold you up anymore. Letting your back, in a way, go more into the yin, because your brain is now facing down to the earth, from the yin. You may even want to go further and really curl into a squat, though not if you have prolapse. Or if you have a prolapse, actually all fours isn't too bad, but even knee to chest. So come back a bit so you can see. Forearms down, head down, pelvis up without hollowing Ming Men, so maybe just connect with Ming Men. And then feeling everything kind of being released, being able to be drawn back up, because you're not having to support against the forces of gravity in the pelvic floor. You can just let it all release, all the pressures. And in this position, even if you don't have prolapse, it can be quite nice to just let your brain be more supported by the earth than by heaven. And to let your pelvic floor and your womb, your palaces, be more supported by space, by heaven. So it could be quite helpful to be in this relaxed, inverted position, just releasing pressure from your pelvic floor. And breathing slowly and deeply, connecting with the wisdom of your body, trusting your body will let you know what you need to do wherever you're at in your life or in your cycle. You may just want to lie down either on your back, maybe with your feet on the earth, or maybe even with your feet up, maybe against the wall. You could put your feet against the wall and just support, or maybe with your feet, knees bent, or just holding your feet. So again, you're slightly inverted and your feet are now connected with space rather than earth, and your back is connected with earth rather than space. And your pelvis is also not having to, your perineum, is not having to work against gravity. In yoga, they call this pose the happy baby, because you're just supported. You can go back even to when you were curled up in the womb,
and you had water supporting you. So this might be a nice position to rest in. Or any other position. But I'm thinking of prolapse. Slightly inverted positions can often feel quite nice. But you may want to feel the earth. Kidney 1 bubbling spring in the sole of your foot, the ball of your foot. Or you may want to more slide your legs, feel your heels rather than the sole of your foot connecting to earth. And you may go back to using the mudra over your palaces or your heart or your brain. And just resting, deeply resting in the yin with your eyes closed. Trusting that you have released what you need to release. And that what remains will support you. So stay in your position as long as you want. And if you're watching this after it has been recorded, you might just want to pause the video and give yourself as much time as you need to digest this journey through life with the extraordinary vessels. And so I will finish recording. But if you have any questions, those who are with me now can ask me now. But if you're watching later, then please put questions in the comments or feedback and I will reply. So thank you for sharing this journey with me.